Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And some of the reviews I'm doing this week in honor of April Fools are spoof comedies. And today's is the 1982 film Airplane 2: The Sequel. Here is your trivia question for today. During the temporary metabolic change, what do the passengers change into? The answer will be at the end of this episode. So, in the film Airplane 2: The Sequel, we do catch back up with Elaine and Ted, who unfortunately have been separated for some time. Now, since the last film, Ted was unfortunately blamed for an accident that occurred, and they sent him into a mental institution because of it. Elaine has also moved on, becoming a full member of the flight crew and now being engaged to Simon. Also, this time around, things are going full blown science fiction, as instead of flying a plane, they're flying a shuttle that is going from Earth to the moon. Once Ted finds out what shuttle is being used for this mission, he realizes that another horrible accident is going to happen, so he escapes from the mental institution. He then sneaks aboard the shuttle, trying to see if he can stop this from happening. Now, just like last time, for the most part, the flight seems to be going pretty well. That is, at least until disaster does strike and the ship's AI begins to take over. One by one, the AI tries to take out all of the flight crew. And once again, it seems that Ted Stryker is the only one that can save the day. Luckily, though, a much more capable Elaine is also there to help him along the way. The ground crews for Earth and the Moon also try to help out. But can anyone stop the AI from now trying to fly the shuttle into the sun? Everyone on board will also have to deal with asteroid fields and even a man with a bomb. So, can once again Ted and Elaine work together to get these passengers safely to the Alpha Beta moon base? This time around, the movie was directed and co written by Ken Finkelman. Now, the studio did try to get Jim Abrahams, David, and Jerry Zucker back to direct this one, but they felt that they had done everything they needed in the first film. However, though, this was made without their consent, so all three of them have never watched this movie. Now, there are probably quite a few that I'm missing, but for the most part, here are all of the movies and television series that this film is spoofing. Primarily, this is spoofing the 1970 film Airport, the 1968 film 2001: A Space Odyssey, and the 1966 television series Star Trek. There are also references to the 1977 film Star Wars: A New Hope, the 1956 film Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 1976 movie Logan's Run, the 1985 film Godzilla 1985, the 1979 film Chomps, the 1966 television series Mission Impossible, the 1978 television series Battlestar Galactica, and the 1975 television series Space 1999. Now, this movie brings back quite a few of the actors from the original film. Obviously, you have Robert Hayes and Julie Haggerty coming back as the two main characters, but there are also quite a handful of other side and primary co-stars that also appear in this one. They did attempt to try to get Leslie Nielsen to return as the character of Dr. Rumack, but he was working on the spoof comedy television series Police Squad at the time and couldn't do it. So instead, they brought in John Vernon as a new character called Dr. Stone as his replacement. They also asked Robert Stack to come back, but he did not like the script at all. He's somewhat replaced by the character played by William Shatner. There are also once again quite a few cameos in this movie. For instance, you had Sonny Bono as the bomber. Speaking of which, if you never noticed before, all the stickers on his briefcase are for places that are famous for being bombed: Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Pearl Harbor, and Dresden. Some of the other well-known cameos throughout the film are Rip Torn, Raymond Burr, Chuck Connors, John Denner, Chad Everett, George Wendt, Herv Velazquez, Art Fleming, who was actually the original Jeopardy host, and strangely, in that same category, 1 year before he would start hosting Wheel of Fortune, Pat Sajak. Here's something I found absolutely hilarious. At the pre-screening for this film, the audience was given 3D glasses at the beginning. They put them on and then very quickly realized this was not a 3D movie. Just like the first movie, this one was filmed entirely in California. There were actually plans talked about for an Airplane 3 while making the second film, but with how poorly that movie did in the box office, that never ended up happening. So when it comes to the film Airplane 2, the sequel, I do think this movie is still very funny, and there are moments that still make me laugh to this day. But I also do feel like they didn't really change or do much different with the sequel. Now, a lot of spoofs don't really do a lot different with their sequels, but I don't know. I just would have liked to have seen something a little bit more different. So I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5. Now, if you did enjoy this movie, other films I recommend checking out are the original Airplane, 2001 A Space Travesty, Dark Star, and Spaceballs. Now it's time to answer the trivia question from the beginning of this episode. During the temporary metabolic change, what do the passengers change into? So, for only a brief moment, all of the passengers are apparently changed into Richard Nixon. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews. And if you can think of any spoof comedies that should get a trivia episode, just let me know in the comments. They might show up this week or perhaps next year when I do this again.